What
Let
would you
this be a
do if the
warning,
woman
Anna.
sleeping with your husband
He's
poured
mine
water
now.
over your head in front of an entire plane?
How could you do
Would
this?
you scream? Would you cry?
You always make me laugh
Would
so
you
hard.
fight back? Anna did none of those things.
I know,
She sat
right?
there
It was
7 months
hilarious.
pregnant, water dripping down her face while her husband
Look at
rushed to
you,
protect his
glowing,
mistress.
aren't we?
Not his wife, not his unborn child,
Pity it won't last.
his mistress. But here is what nobody
Enjoy
on
the
that
ice
plane
bath.
knew.
You deserved it.
The flight attendant watching from the galley was not just doing her job.
Oh
She
my
was
God,
Anna's
look at
sister.
her belly.
And that was only
I'm
the
telling you,
first
she just
secret about to
attacked us out of
explode.
nowhere. Look at this
Because
photo
Anna
she
was not the
posted.
helpless
Okay, I
woman everyone
understand,
assumed.
but
Assaulting
She was
another
hiding
passenger
something
is a
that would
serious
destroy her
offense.
husband's entire
They thought
world.
they got away with it.
Something worth
But true
$4.2
justice
billion.
always finds a way.
What happens
And for
next
one
will
woman,
make your jaw drop.
A new life begins.
The most satisfying karma is coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. Stay until the end because the final twist changed everything. If stories like this speak to you, you are in the right place. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, hit that subscribe button, and let us dive in together. This is a story about betrayal, revenge, and the moment a silent woman finally found her voice. What should have been a peaceful flight turned into a nightmare when a mistress poured water over a pregnant woman in front of an entire cabin. The husband did nothing. He sat there silent, as if his silence could protect him from what was coming. The mistress believed humiliation would give her power, that public cruelty would somehow make her the winner in a game she had already lost. But neither of them noticed who was standing just a few steps away. Neither of them recognized the flight attendant watching everything with trained eyes and forced restraint. Because the woman in the navy blue uniform was not just doing her job, she was the pregnant woman's sister. And that revelation was only the first secret about to shatter the false peace of that aircraft. What followed was a brutal collision of cruelty, authority, and truth unfolding high above the ground, where escape was impossible and justice had nowhere to hide. Stay with me, because what happens next will hit harder than anyone expects. 2 hours before boarding, Anna Blackwell sat alone at Gate 17 of Denver International Airport. Her hand rested on her swollen belly, fingers spread protectively over the life growing inside her. At 29 years old and 7 months pregnant, she had learned to move carefully through the world. Every step was measured. Every breath was deliberate. She wore a pale yellow maternity dress, soft cotton that fell loosely over her frame. The fabric was chosen for comfort, not appearance. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her face carried the kind of exhaustion that sleep alone could not fix. To anyone passing by, she looked like an ordinary woman waiting for an ordinary flight. No one would have guessed that her father owned the company that manufactured 40% of the parts in the aircraft she was about to board. No one would have suspected that the modest woman in the yellow dress was the sole heir to Blackwell Industries, a $4.2 billion aerospace empire. That was exactly how Anna wanted it. 5 years ago, she had walked away from her family's fortune. Her mother had just died, and her father's response had been to bury himself deeper in business, treating grief like an inconvenience rather than a wound. Anna could not bear to watch it. She could not bear to become it, so she left. She changed her last name on every document that mattered. She moved to a small apartment in Chicago. She found work at a nonprofit that helps single mothers find housing, and she told herself that she was finally free. Then she met Mark Reynolds. He was charming in that way that certain men are charming, the kind of charm that makes you feel like the only person in the room. He was a vice president of marketing at a mid-level tech firm, successful enough to be confident, but not so successful that he intimidated her. He pursued her with flowers and phone calls and dinners at restaurants with cloth napkins. He told her she was beautiful. He told her she was different from other women. He told her he had never met anyone like her. Anna believed him. She wanted to believe him. After years of feeling invisible in her father's world of private jets and board meetings, she craved the simplicity of being loved for herself. They married 3 years ago in a small ceremony with no family present. Anna told Mark that she was estranged from her parents. She did not tell him about the billions. She did not tell him about the company. She wanted him to love Anna, not the Blackwell name. Now sitting in the airport with their child growing inside her, she finally understood the cost of that silence. 3 months ago, Anna had found a smear of lipstick on Mark's collar. It was a shade of red she did not own. When she asked about it, he laughed and said a colleague had hugged him at a work event. His eyes did not meet hers when he said it. That night, after Mark fell asleep, Anna went through his phone for the first time in their marriage. What she found made her stomach turn. Messages filled with promises and pet names, photographs she wished she could unsee, plans for a future that did not include her. The woman's name was Claire Morgan. She was 31 years old, an executive assistant at Mark's company. According to the messages, they had been sleeping together for 8 months. Anna did not confront him. She did not scream or cry or throw his belongings onto the lawn. Instead, she did something her father had taught her before she ever learned to resent him. She gathered evidence. She hired a private investigator named Samuel Crawford. Within 2 weeks, he delivered a folder thick with photographs, financial records, and time-stamped text messages. Anna now had proof of every hotel room, every lie, every dollar Mark had spent on his mistress, while telling his pregnant wife they needed to budget for the baby. The trip she was taking today had nothing to do with visiting family. The destination was a law firm in Seattle where divorce attorneys were waiting with paperwork that would end her marriage and protect her child. Mark did not know any of this. He believed Anna was visiting a distant aunt who did not exist. He had seemed almost relieved when she announced the trip, probably because it gave him 3 days alone with Claire. What Mark did not know was that Claire was on this flight too. Anna had discovered this just that morning when she overheard Mark on the phone confirming their seats. They were flying together, sitting just a few rows behind her. The audacity of it made her dizzy. She could have changed her flight. She could have avoided the confrontation entirely. But something stubborn and tired inside her refused to run. She had spent 3 years building a life around a man who did not deserve her. She would not give him the satisfaction of making her hide. A commotion near the gate drew her attention. A toddler had thrown himself onto the floor, screaming about a dropped juice box. His mother stood over him with the hollow expression of someone who had not slept in years. Anna watched them for a moment. Then she looked down at her belly and whispered quietly, "Please do not be like that." The baby kicked in response, a firm thump against her palm. Anna almost smiled. "That is not a promise, is it?" The boarding announcement crackled through the speakers. First-class passengers were invited to begin the process. Anna stood slowly, gathering her carry-on bag. She had first-class status through a partnership her family maintained with this airline, though she had downgraded herself to economy to avoid attention. As she walked toward the gate, she spotted a familiar face among the flight crew. Emily Blackwell stood near the jet bridge in her navy blue uniform, her posture straight, her expression professional. At 26 years old, Emily had followed a different path than her older sister. She had stayed connected to their father, though she rarely admitted it. She had chosen to work as a flight attendant, not because she needed the money, but because she loved the skies. Aviation was in their blood. Their grandfather had been a pilot. Their father had built an empire around it. Emily saw Anna at the same moment. Their eyes met briefly. A flicker of recognition passed between them, so subtle that no one else would have noticed. Emily gave a tiny nod. Anna returned it. Then Anna looked away and continued walking, as if her sister were just another member of the crew. This was how they had always done it. When Emily worked a flight that Anna was on, they maintained professional distance. Anything else could jeopardize Emily's job, invite accusations of favoritism, create complications neither of them needed. But today that distance felt heavier than usual. Anna wanted to run to her sister, to bury her face in Emily's shoulder, and finally let herself cry. She wanted to tell someone the truth about what was happening, about what she had discovered, about the fear that had been living in her chest for 3 months. Instead, she handed her boarding pass to the gate agent and walked onto the plane alone. She found her seat in economy, row 14, and lowered herself carefully into the middle section. The seats on either side were empty for now. She buckled her seatbelt beneath her belly and tried to focus on breathing, in and out. Slow and steady, the baby needed her to stay calm. The baby needed her to be strong. She closed her eyes and let the noise of boarding passengers wash over her. Footsteps, voices, the thump of luggage being shoved into overhead bins, normal sounds, ordinary sounds. Then she heard laughter, familiar laughter. Anna opened her eyes. Mark and Claire were walking down the aisle toward her. They did not see her at first. Mark was leaning close to Claire, whispering something that made her smile. Claire wore a fitted red dress that clung to her figure, the kind of dress designed to draw attention. They passed Anna's row without glancing in her direction. They settled into seats a few rows behind her, still murmuring, still laughing. Anna stared straight ahead, her hands pressed flat against her thighs. She had prepared for betrayal. She had prepared for divorce. She had even prepared for the possibility of seeing them together. But she had not prepared for what she heard next. Claire's voice carried forward, just loud enough to reach Anna's ears. After you tell her about us tonight, we should celebrate. I have news too. A pause, then Claire's hand moved to rest on her own stomach. Anna felt the world tilt. Claire was pregnant. Her husband's mistress was carrying his child, and somewhere behind her, Mark was laughing again, as if this were just another ordinary day. The plane lifted off the runway and climbed into a gray December sky. Anna watched through the window as Denver grew smaller beneath them, the buildings and highways shrinking until they looked like toys scattered across a table. The engines hummed steadily, vibrating through the floor and into her bones. She pressed her hand against her belly and tried to focus on the clouds. 7 months. She was 7 months pregnant with a child whose father was already planning a life with another woman, a woman who might also be carrying his baby. The thought made her physically ill. She forced herself to breathe slowly, counting each inhale and exhale the way her therapist had taught her. Stress was dangerous during pregnancy. Her body could not afford to spiral. The baby needed her to stay present, to stay calm, to survive this flight without falling apart. But survival felt impossible when she could hear Claire's voice drifting forward from a few rows back. The woman was not even trying to be quiet. Every word seemed designed to carry, to wound, to remind Anna that she had already lost. I cannot wait to be a mother. Mark is going to be such a good father. Anna's jaw tightened. She did not turn around. Mark said something too low to hear. Claire laughed in response, a bright artificial sound that cut through the cabin noise. The flight attendants moved through the aisle, checking seatbelts and offering pillows. Anna kept her eyes forward, watching their navy uniforms pass in her peripheral vision. She knew Emily was somewhere on this plane, working, watching, waiting. The knowledge was both comforting and painful. Emily had tried to warn her about Mark. 2 years ago, at a rare family dinner where Anna had agreed to introduce her husband to her sister, Emily had pulled her aside afterward. There is something off about him, Emily had said. I cannot explain it. Just be careful. Anna had dismissed the warning. She told herself Emily was being overprotective, that she did not understand what it was like to finally feel loved by someone who did not care about the Blackwell name. Now she understood that Emily had seen what she refused to see. Her sister had recognized the predator in Mark's smile before Anna ever did. The seatbelt sign turned off with a soft chime. Passengers began to shift, reaching for bags and devices. The cabin settled into the quiet routine of a cross-country flight. Anna closed her eyes, hoping sleep might offer a few hours of escape. It did not. 20 minutes later, she felt a presence beside her row. She opened her eyes to find Claire standing in the aisle, looking down at her with a smile that held no warmth. Oh, Anna, I did not see you there. Anna said nothing. She kept her hands folded over her belly, her expression neutral. Claire tilted her head, studying Anna the way someone might study an insect pinned to a board. You look tired. Pregnancy really does not suit some women, does it? The words landed like small cuts, precise and deliberate. Anna felt her pulse quicken, but she refused to give Claire the reaction she was clearly seeking. Claire continued, her voice dripping with false concern. You know, Mark talks about you sometimes, about how you have let yourself go, how you are not the woman he married anymore. Still, Anna did not respond. She stared at Claire with the same calm expression she had learned to wear in boardrooms as a teenager, watching her ice or negotiate deals worth more than Claire would ever earn in a lifetime. The silence seemed to unsettle Claire. Her smile flickered. Then Mark appeared behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Claire, let us go back to our seats. Anna looked at her husband. She waited for something, an apology, an explanation, a single word that might acknowledge 3 years of marriage and the child she was carrying. Mark did not meet her eyes. He simply guided Claire back down the aisle, as if Anna were a stranger who did not deserve his attention. When they were bonbon, Anna allowed herself one shaky breath. She had told herself she was prepared for this. She had told herself that knowing about the affair would make it easier to face. But nothing could have prepared her for the casual cruelty of it, for the way Mark treated her like an inconvenience rather than a person. In that moment, Anna understood something she had been avoiding for months. Her husband was not just unfaithful, he was a coward. And cowards were the most dangerous people in a crisis because they would always sacrifice someone else to save themselves. The flight continued. Anna tried to read, but the words blurred on the page. She tried to listen to music, but every song reminded her of something she wanted to forget. Eventually, she just sat still, staring at the seat back in front of her, counting the minutes until landing. An hour passed, then another. Emily walked through the cabin during this time, assisting passengers with practiced efficiency. Once she passed close enough that Anna could smell the familiar lavender of her perfume. Their eyes met for half a second. Emily's expression remained professional, but Anna saw the concern hidden beneath it. Emily slipped something into the seat pocket beside Anna as she passed. A folded piece of paper, tucked so discreetly that no one else noticed. Anna waited until Emily had moved on. Then she reached into the pocket and unfolded the note. The handwriting was her sister's neat cursive. "I know about Mark. Dad knows too. We are ready when you are." Anna read the words 3 times, her throat tightened. For 5 years, she had kept her distance from her father. She had convinced herself that she did not need his money, his power, his protection. She had built an identity around being ordinary, around proving that she could survive without the Blackwell name. But Emily had never fully cut ties. Emily still talked to their father, still visited him on holidays, still maintained the bridge that Anna had burned. Now that bridge was being offered back to her. Anna crumpled the note in her fist. She was not ready. She did not want to crawl back to her father's world, to admit that her independence had been an illusion. She wanted to handle this herself, on her own terms, without owing anyone anything. She shoved the paper into her bag and tried to push the thought away. 30 minutes before landing, the cabin lights dimmed. Most passengers had settled into the drowsy quiet that preceded arrival. Anna allowed herself to relax slightly, thinking the worst was over. She was wrong. Claire appeared again, this time holding a plastic cup filled with water. Ice cubes floated on the surface, clinking softly as she walked. Anna watched her approach with growing unease. Something in Claire's posture had changed. The earlier smugness had hardened into something darker, something that looked almost like rage. Claire stopped beside Anna's row. For a moment, she just stood there, staring down at the pregnant woman with an expression that made Anna's skin crawl. "You think you can just sit there?" Claire said quietly. "You think ignoring me makes you better than me?" Anna's voice was calm, though her heart was racing. "I do not want any trouble. Please go back to your seat." Claire's lip curled. "Trouble. You do not even know what trouble is." Later, Anna would replay this moment 1,000 times. She would wonder if there was something she could have said, some magic word that might have stopped what happened next. But there was no magic word. Claire lifted the cup and poured the water directly over Anna's head. The cold hit like a physical blow, shocking and brutal. Ice water streamed down Anna's face, soaking her hair, running into her eyes and mouth. She gasped, instinctively raising her hands to shield herself. Her other arm wrapped around her belly, protecting the baby from the chaos erupting around her. The cabin exploded into noise. Passengers shouted in alarm. Someone screamed. Phones appeared from every direction, their screens glowing as people began to record. Claire did not step back. She stood over Anna with an expression of savage satisfaction, as if she had just won a battle no one else knew was being fought. Mark rushed forward, but not toward Anna. He grabbed Claire's arm and pulled her away. "It was an accident," he announced loudly, loud enough for the nearby rows to hear. She tripped. "It was just an accident." Anna sat frozen in her seat, water dripping from her chin onto her yellow dress. The fabric clung to her skin, cold and heavy. Her body shook uncontrollably, whether from the temperature or the shock she could not tell. She looked up at her husband, waiting for him to say something that mattered. Mark did not even glance at her. He was too busy steering Claire back to their seats, too busy constructing the lie that would protect them both. The baby kicked hard, as if sensing its mother's distress. Anna pressed her trembling hand against her belly and whispered words that only she could hear. "I am here. I am still here. We are going to be okay." But she did not believe it. Not yet. The water continued to drip from Anna's hair as the cabin erupted into chaos. Passengers leaned over seats, craning their necks to see what had happened. Voices overlapped in a rising tide of confusion and outrage. "Did you see that?" She poured it right on her head. "The woman is pregnant, for God's sake." Anna sat motionless, her hands pressed against her stomach. The cold had seeped through her dress, through her skin, into her bones. She felt like she was watching the scene from somewhere outside her body, as if the woman in the soaked yellow dress were a stranger she did not recognize. A flight attendant appeared beside her row. Not Emily, but a young woman with red hair and a name tag that read Jennifer. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Jennifer asked, her voice tight with concern. "Let me get you some towels." Before Anna could respond, Claire's voice cut through the noise. "Do not touch her." Claire had not returned to her seat. She stood in the aisle a few rows back, her chin lifted defiantly. Mark hovered beside her, his expression carefully arranged into something that resembled concern. "She is crazy," Claire announced. "Wow, she has been stalking me for months." The accusation landed like a second blow. Anna's breath caught in her throat. "What?" she managed to whisper. Claire pulled out her phone and held up the screen, showing what appeared to be a string of threatening text messages. "This woman has been harassing me because she cannot accept that her marriage is over. She probably poured the water on herself for attention." The cabin went quiet. Anna could feel the shift in the air, the way uncertainty replaced sympathy in the faces around her. Some passengers exchanged glances. Others lowered their phones, suddenly unsure what they had actually witnessed. Mark stepped forward, his voice oozing with false regret. "My wife has been unstable lately. The pregnancy hormones have been difficult. She needs help, not accusations." Anna opened her mouth to protest, but the words would not come. Her throat had closed around the horror of what was happening. She was sitting in public, soaking wet, pregnant, and her own husband was calling her crazy. Jennifer, the flight attendant, hesitated, looking between Anna and the couple in the aisle. The confidence had drained from her face, replaced by the awkward expression of someone who did not know who to believe. This is what gaslighting looks like in real time. When an abuser is caught, their first instinct is to make you the problem. They flip the narrative so fast that even witnesses start to doubt what they saw. Anna had read about this in therapy sessions in self-help books, but experiencing it in front of strangers while pregnant and humiliated was something no article could have prepared her for. Jennifer finally spoke. "Ma'am, maybe we should move you to a different seat until we can sort this out." Claire scoffed. "She is fine where she is. We just want to get her the help she needs." Another flight attendant approached, an older man with gray at his temples. His name tag read David. He surveyed the scene with the wary expression of someone who had seen too many in-flight incidents. "Folks, I need everyone to return to their seats," he said firmly. "We are beginning our descent, and the captain has requested that all passengers remain seated with seatbelts fastened." Mark nodded as if he were being reasonable. "Of course, we were just trying to help my wife." The word wife made Anna flinch. It sounded obscene coming from his mouth, like a possession rather than a partnership. David turned to Anna, his tone gentler. "Ma'am, are you injured? Do you need medical assistance?" Anna forced herself to speak. She could barely recognize her own voice. "She poured water on me. I did not do anything. I was just sitting here." David's expression was sympathetic but cautious. "We will sort this out after landing. For now, let me get you moved to a seat with fewer people around." He helped her stand. Anna's legs felt unsteady beneath her, as if the floor of the aircraft were tilting. She gripped the headrest of the seat in front of her for balance, and David guided her slowly toward the front of the cabin. Claire called after them, "Make sure you document her behavior. She is the dangerous one, not me." Anna did not look back. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other, on keeping her breathing steady, on not collapsing in the middle of the aisle. They reached first class, where a few empty seats remained. David helped her settle into one near the window. The leather was softer than economy, the legroom almost luxurious. Under different circumstances, Anna might have appreciated the upgrade. Now she just wanted to disappear. A blanket appeared from somewhere, warm and dry. Someone handed her a bottle of water and a towel. Anna used the towel to wipe her face, but her hands were shaking so badly that she kept dropping it. That was when she noticed the woman across the aisle. Diana Parker was 45 years old, with blonde hair styled in loose waves and a face that looked familiar in the way that minor celebrities often do. She wore a cashmere sweater and designer jeans, and she was holding her phone at an angle that suggested she had been recording for some time. When she caught Anna looking, Diana lowered the phone slightly. "Honey," she said in a southern drawl that dripped with sympathy and outrage, "I got every second of that, and I have 12 million followers who are about to find out exactly what kind of man your husband is." Anna stared at her, unable to process the words. Diana leaned closer. "I am Diana Parker. I do a show called Southern Truth. You have probably seen my videos about that senator who cheated on his wife with his nanny, or the CEO who got caught embezzling from his own charity." Anna shook her head weakly. "I do not really watch." Diana waved a hand dismissively. "That is fine, sugar. The point is, I know a monster when I see one, and that man back there has monster written all over him." Before Anna could respond, Emily appeared at her side. Her sister had maintained professional composure, but Anna could see the tension in her jaw, the way her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the blanket around Anna's shoulders. "Ma'am," Emily said, her voice carefully neutral, "is there anything else I can bring you?" Anna looked up at her sister and felt something crack inside her chest. For 3 years, she had been carrying this weight alone. She had hidden the truth from everyone who might have helped her. She had convinced herself that silence was strength, that enduring was the same as surviving. But it was not. Silence had not protected her. It had only protected Mark. Emily's eyes held a question that words could not ask. "Are you ready to fight back?" Anna did not answer. Not yet. Instead, she closed her eyes and focused on the baby moving inside her, the small life that depended on her to be strong. The plane began its descent. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing their approach to Seattle. Outside the window, the clouds parted to reveal a city shrouded in gray mist. Anna thought it was almost over. She thought the worst had passed. She was wrong again. As the wheels touched down and the plane taxied toward the gate, Mark made a phone call. His voice was too quiet for Anna to hear from first class, but she would learn later what he said. She would learn that Mark's college roommate was a police officer in Denver and that Mark had called in a favor. He told his friend that Anna was having a psychiatric episode. He claimed she had been threatening passengers and crew. He requested that she be removed from the flight for everyone's safety. 20 minutes after landing, 2 police officers boarded the aircraft. They walked straight past economy, past the rows of curious passengers still gathering their belongings. They climbed the steps to first class and stopped directly in front of Anna's seat. "Ma'am," the first officer said, "we need you to come with us." Anna looked up at them in confusion. "What? Why, Bomanyan? I have not done anything. We received a report that you have been threatening passengers." "Please come quietly." The officer's voice was not unkind, but it was firm. He clearly believed what he had been told. Anna's stomach dropped. She looked toward Emily, who stood frozen near the galley with an expression of barely controlled fury. "That is not true," Anna said, her voice rising. "I was assaulted. That woman poured water on me. There are witnesses. There are videos." The second officer shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, we can sort this out at the station. But right now, we need you to come with us." Diana Parker stood up from her seat. "Now hold on, just a minute. I saw the whole thing. This woman was attacked by that trashy mistress back there, and her worthless husband defended the attacker." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, please stay out of this." "Stay out of it?" Diana's voice rose to a pitch that could cut glass. "I have footage that proves this woman is the victim. You are about to arrest a pregnant woman based on lies told by her abuser." The officer's jaw tightened. "We will review any evidence at the station. Right now, I need this passenger to come with us voluntarily, or we will have to take additional measures." Anna looked at Emily one last time. Her sister's face was pale, her hands clenched at her sides. Emily wanted to intervene. Anna could see it in every line of her body. But her supervisor was standing nearby, watching closely, and any unprofessional behavior could cost Emily her career. Anna would not let that happen. She stood slowly, one hand pressed against her belly. Her legs were weak, her dress still damp and clinging. She felt small and exposed and utterly alone. "Fine," she said quietly. "I will come with you." The officers flanked her as she walked down the aisle. Passengers stared. Some whispered. A few held up their phones, recording her humiliation for reasons she could not understand. Mark watched from his seat with a small, satisfied smile. Claire waved as Anna passed, her fingers waggling in a mocking goodbye. Anna kept her eyes forward and walked off the plane. The airport security room was small and cold. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the beige walls and scuffed linoleum floor. A metal table sat in the center, flanked by two chairs. The air smelled like stale coffee and industrial cleaning products. Anna sat alone in one of those chairs, her hands folded on the table in front of her. Her dress had mostly dried during the hours she had been waiting, but the fabric remained stiff and uncomfortable against her skin. A chill had settled into her bones that had nothing to do with temperature. Through the small window in the door, she could see officers moving back and forth in the corridor. None of them had spoken to her since bringing her here. None of them had explained what was happening or when she might be allowed to leave. She was a pregnant woman being held in a security room like a criminal, based on lies told by her cheating husband. The baby kicked, and Anna pressed her palm against the movement. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I should have left sooner. I should have been stronger." But she had not been stronger. She had stayed in a marriage that was slowly suffocating her because she was afraid. Afraid of being alone, afraid of admitting failure. Afraid that without Mark, she would have nothing. Now she understood how foolish that fear had been. She already had nothing. The marriage had been empty for longer than she wanted to admit. Mark had never loved her. He had loved the idea of her, the quiet wife who asked no questions and made no demands. When that wife stopped being useful, he found someone else. Anna thought about the evidence she had gathered. The photographs from the private investigator, the text messages, the financial records showing money transferred to accounts she did not recognize. All of it was stored on a secure server, waiting for the divorce attorneys in Seattle. None of it would help her now. She had no lawyer in this city, no friends who could vouch for her. Her identification listed her married name, Anna Reynolds, which connected her to exactly no one with power or influence. For all practical purposes, she was just another woman claiming to be a victim, while her husband told a more convincing story. The door opened. A female officer entered, carrying a clipboard and wearing an expression that suggested she had seen this situation many times before. "Mrs. Reynolds," she said, her tone professionally neutral. "I am Officer Martinez. I need to ask you some questions about the incident on the flight." Anna looked up at her. "I did not threaten anyone. I was sitting in my seat when another passenger poured water over my head. My husband and his mistress are the ones who should be questioned." Officer Martinez sat down across from her. "According to the report filed by your husband, you have a history of mental health issues and have been exhibiting erratic behavior during the pregnancy. That is a lie. He also provided documentation suggesting you have been stalking and harassing a colleague of his named Claire Morgan." Anna felt the blood drain from her face. "What documentation?" "A restraining order apparently filed 3 weeks ago. It claims you have been sending threatening messages and showing up at her workplace unannounced." The room seemed to tilt. Anna gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. "There is no restraining order," she said, her voice trembling. "I have never threatened anyone. I have never been to her workplace. This is fabricated. All of it." Officer Martinez studied her for a long moment. "Ma'am, I understand this is a stressful situation, but we have to follow up on all reports, especially when there are concerns about the safety of other passengers." Anna wanted to scream. She wanted to grab this woman by the shoulders and shake her until she understood the truth. But she knew how that would look. She knew that any display of emotion would only confirm the story Mark had constructed. So she forced herself to speak calmly. "There are videos," she said. "Multiple passengers recorded what happened. One of them is a content creator named Diana Parker. She has the entire incident on camera. It will prove that I was assaulted and that I did nothing wrong." Officer Martinez made a note on her clipboard. "We will look into that." She did not sound convinced. Anna sat back in her chair and closed her eyes. This was what power looked like when it was used against you. Mark had connections. Claire had lies. And Anna had nothing but the truth, which in that moment no one wanted to hear. The minutes crawled by. Anna lost track of how long she sat there, alone with her thoughts and her fear and the growing certainty that she had made a terrible mistake. She had spent 5 years running from her family because she wanted to prove she could survive without them. She had rejected her father's money, his influence, his protection. She had told herself that independence meant standing alone, but independence was not the same as isolation, and standing alone was not the same as being strong. Sometimes strength meant knowing when to ask for help. Anna reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. The battery was low, but there was enough charge for one call. She stared at the screen for a long moment. The contact was listed simply as Dad, though she had not used it in years. She did not even know if the number still worked. Her finger hovered over the call button. Every instinct she had developed over the past 5 years told her not to do this. Calling her father meant admitting defeat. It meant crawling back to the world she had tried so hard to leave behind. It meant owing him something she might never be able to repay. But she thought about the baby growing inside her. She thought about what kind of mother she wanted to be. She thought about the lessons she would teach her child if she sat here in silence, letting Mark and Claire destroy her life because she was too proud to ask for help. The baby kicked again, harder this time. Anna pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered, a voice she had not heard in 5 years, rough with age and something that might have been hope. Anna, Dad, it is me. There was a pause. In that silence, Anna heard everything her father was not saying. The worry, the relief, the 5 years of distance collapsing into a single moment. Where are you? Harold Blackwell asked. Emily called. She told me something happened on the flight. Are you hurt? Anna felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She did not try to stop them. I am at the Seattle airport, in a security room. Mark called the police. He told them I was having a psychiatric episode. They will not let me leave. Her father's voice went cold, very cold. The kind of cold that had built a $4 billion empire and destroyed competitors who underestimated him. Stay where you are, he said. I am sending lawyers. And Anna? Yes, I am sorry I was not there before. But I am here now. And that man is going to regret the day he ever touched my daughter. Anna almost laughed through her tears. Dad, please do not do anything illegal. I will not do anything illegal. Her father's voice carried a note of dark satisfaction. I will do something worse. I will do something legal. 45 minutes after Anna ended the call with her father, the door to the security room opened again. This time, Officer Martinez was not alone. 3 people entered behind her. 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing expensive suits that probably cost more than the officer's monthly salary. They carried leather briefcases and moved with the quiet confidence of people who were used to winning. The lead attorney, a man in his 50s with silver hair and sharp blue eyes, stepped forward and placed a business card on the table. Robert Mitchell, he said, Blackwell Industries Legal Counsel. We represent Anna Blackwell. Officer Martinez blinked. I thought her name was Reynolds. Robert smiled without warmth. Her married name temporarily. Ms. Blackwell is the sole heir to Blackwell Industries. Perhaps you have heard of it? We manufacture approximately 40% of the aircraft parts used by this airline, including, I suspect, the plane she just arrived on. The color drained from Officer Martinez's face. Robert continued, his tone pleasant but lethal. Now then, my client is a pregnant woman who was physically assaulted on a commercial flight. She was then removed from that aircraft based on a false police report filed by her estranged husband and his mistress. She has been held in this room for nearly 2 hours without legal representation, without medical attention, and without any apparent interest in investigating the actual crime that occurred. He paused, letting the words sink in. I have video evidence of the assault, obtained from a passenger who witnessed the incident. I have testimony from multiple witnesses who can confirm that my client did nothing wrong. And I have documentation proving that the so-called restraining order, referenced by Mr. Reynolds, is a fraudulent document created specifically to discredit his wife. Officer Martinez opened her mouth, but Robert held up a hand. I am not finished. In approximately 15 minutes, a medical team will arrive to examine my client and document any physical or psychological harm resulting from this incident. Shortly after that, a press conference will be held in the main terminal, where Ms. Blackwell's family will address the media and share the video evidence with the public. He leaned forward slightly. What happens at that press conference depends entirely on how the next few minutes go. Either we can tell the story of how Seattle's airport security department detained and traumatized a pregnant assault victim, or we can tell the story of how they quickly recognized the truth and cooperated with our investigation. The choice is yours. Officer Martinez was silent for a long moment. Then she stood up. I need to speak with my supervisor. She left the room quickly, her footsteps echoing down the corridor of storm. Anna stared at Robert Mitchell, trying to process what had just happened. 45 minutes ago, she had been alone and powerless. Now she had an army of lawyers and the threat of public exposure as weapons. This was her father's world, the world she had tried so hard to escape. She was not sure how she felt about being back in it. Robert turned to her, his expression softening slightly. Are you all right, Ms. Blackwell? Anna took a shaky breath. I do not know yet. Ask me again when I am out of this room. That will be soon. Robert sat down in the chair across from her. Your father wanted me to tell you something. What? He said he is proud of you. Anna felt fresh tears threatening to fall. She blinked them back. He does not even know what I did. He knows you called, Robert said simply. After 5 years of silence, you swallowed your pride and asked for help. For a Blackwell, that is not weakness. That is courage. Before Anna could respond, the door opened again. This time, a different officer entered. Older, more senior, with the harried expression of someone who had just received very bad news from very high up the chain of command. Ms. Blackwell, he said, his tone almost apologetic. You are free to go. We apologize for any inconvenience. If there is anything we can do to make this situation right, please let us know. Robert stood and buttoned his jacket. Actually, there is. We will need copies of all reports filed regarding this incident. We will also need the names of the officers who detained my client and any documentation of communications between your department and Mark Reynolds. The senior officer nodded quickly. Of course, I will have everything sent to your office within the hour. See that you do. Robert helped Anna to her feet. The other two lawyers flanked them as they walked out of the security room and into the corridor beyond. The airport terminal was bright and busy, filled with travelers rushing to gates and families reuniting after long journeys. Normal life, happening all around her, completely unaware of the drama that had just unfolded behind closed doors. Anna spotted Diana Parker waiting near the security checkpoint. The influencer was pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear. When she saw Anna emerge, Diana ended her call and rushed over. Oh, thank God, she said, her southern accent thicker than before. I have been calling everyone I know, trying to get you out of there. I even threatened to go live and expose this whole mess in real time. Anna managed a weak smile. Thank you. You did not have to do that. Honey, I have made a career out of exposing trash men who think they can get away with anything. Diana's expression hardened. What your husband did is textbook abuse. The gaslighting, the false accusations, using the police as weapons. I have seen it 100 times, and it never stops making me angry. She held up her phone. I have the whole thing recorded, every second, from multiple angles. My followers are going to destroy him. Anna hesitated. I appreciate that, but I am not sure I want this to be public. Not yet. Diana studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. I understand, but sugar, sometimes public is the only language these people speak. Think about it. A commotion near the terminal entrance drew their attention. Anna turned to see Emily pushing through the crowd, still in her flight attendant uniform. Her sister's face was flushed, her eyes red-rimmed. Emily reached her and pulled her into a fierce hug. I tried to stop them, Emily whispered. I tried to tell them you did not do anything. My supervisor made me stay back. I am so sorry. Anna held her sister tightly. It is not your fault. None of this is your fault. They stood like that for a long moment, two sisters clinging to each other in the middle of a busy airport. Around them, travelers continued their journeys, oblivious to the small pocket of grief and relief existing in their midst. When they finally pulled apart, Emily's expression had shifted. The sorrow was still there, but something harder had joined it. I need to tell you something, Emily said quietly. What? Emily glanced around, then lowered her voice. I have been documenting Mark's behavior for 8 months. Every time I saw you with bruises, you explained away. Every time you flinched when your phone rang. I have photographs, dates, detailed notes. I was building a case. Anna stared at her sister. You knew, I suspected. Emily's voice cracked slightly. I did not have proof until now. I was waiting for you to be ready to fight back. Anna thought about all the times Emily had called to check on her over the past year. The gentle questions about how things were going at home. the offers to visit that Anna had always declined. Her sister had been watching, protecting her from a distance, waiting for this moment. "Thank you," Anna said, "for not giving up on me." Emily squeezed her hand. "Never." Robert Mitchell cleared his throat politely. "I hate to interrupt, but we should discuss next steps. The plane is still at the gate. Mr. Reynolds and Ms. Morgan have not yet deplaned. If you want to confront them, now would be the time." Anna felt something shift inside her chest. For 3 years, she had been the quiet wife, the accommodating partner, the woman who swallowed her anger and told herself that peace was more important than truth. That woman had been poured water on in front of an entire cabin. That woman had been dragged off a plane by police. That woman had sat alone in a security room, pregnant and terrified and completely powerless. Anna was done being that woman. "Take me to the plane," she said. The jet bridge felt longer than Anna remembered. Each step echoed in the narrow corridor as she walked toward the aircraft door, flanked by Robert Mitchell on one side and Emily on the other. Behind them, airport security personnel followed at a respectful distance. Anna's heart was pounding. Her hands were trembling. Every instinct told her to turn around, to avoid the confrontation waiting at the end of this bridge. But she kept walking. The cabin door stood open. Inside, most passengers had already deplaned, but a few stragglers remained in their seats, gathering belongings and chatting quietly. The flight crew stood near the galley, watching the unusual procession with undisguised curiosity. Anna stepped onto the aircraft. The moment she appeared in the doorway, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. The few remaining passengers seemed to sense that something significant was about to happen. Mark and Claire were still in their seats, near the middle of the economy cabin. Claire was touching up her lipstick in a compact mirror. Mark was scrolling through his phone with the bored expression of someone who believed he had already won. Neither of them noticed Anna at first. She walked slowly down the aisle, her yellow dress still wrinkled from the water that had soaked it hours earlier. Her hair was messy, her makeup long gone. She looked nothing like the polished women who usually starred in confrontation scenes. But her eyes were clear, her spine was straight, and when she stopped beside Mark's row, her voice did not waver. "Mark." He looked up from his phone. The color drained from his face. "Anna." His voice cracked slightly. "What are you doing here? I thought the police were handling things." "They were." Anna's tone was ice cold. "Until my lawyers arrived and explained that everything you told them was a lie." Claire lowered her compact mirror. Her expression flickered between fear and defiance, settling on something that looked like contempt. "Oh, please," Claire said. "You cannot prove anything. It is your word against ours." Anna smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Actually, I can prove quite a lot." She reached into the folder Robert had given her and pulled out a stack of photographs. "3 months ago, I hired a private investigator. I have documented evidence of your affair. Hotels, restaurants, gifts purchased with money from our joint account. I have text messages, financial records, everything." She dropped the photographs onto Mark's tray table. "I also have video footage from multiple passengers showing you assaulting me and then lying to the flight crew. One of those passengers happens to be Diana Parker, who has 12 million followers and a personal grudge against men who abuse their wives." Mark's jaw tightened. "You are bluffing." "Am I?" Anna tilted her head. "Would you like to call my father and ask him?" "Oh, wait, I forgot to mention. My father is Harold Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Industries, the company that manufactures 40% of this airline's aircraft parts." The words landed like bombs. Claire's mouth fell open. Mark went pale, then red, then pale again. "Blackwell," he repeated. "Your name is Reynolds, my married name." Anna's voice hardened. "The name I took because I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I am worth." Clearly, that was a mistake. Passengers were watching now, openly staring at the scene unfolding in the middle of the cabin. A few had their phones out again, recording. Anna continued, "I have filed for divorce. You will be hearing from my attorneys regarding custody arrangements and division of assets. Given the documented evidence of your infidelity and the assault that occurred today, I expect the proceedings to be quite straightforward." She turned to Claire. "As for you, the restraining order you filed 3 weeks ago has been identified as a fraudulent document. Filing false police reports is a crime. Fabricating legal documents is a crime. My lawyers are already preparing charges. Claire's face went white. That is not, I did not mean to. Mark told me it would be fine. Mark spun toward her. Shut up. Do not say anything, Alec. Too late, Anna said calmly. Everything you say is being recorded. Multiple witnesses. Multiple cameras. Whatever story you were planning to tell, it will not hold up. She stepped back from the row, giving them one final look. You thought you could humiliate me and get away with it. You thought I was weak because I was quiet. But silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is just patience, and I have been very, very patient. Mark lurched to his feet. Anna, wait. We can talk about this. I made mistakes, but we can work through them. Think about the baby. Anna stopped. She turned slowly, her expression dangerous. The baby, she said softly. You want to talk about the baby? Let me tell you something about this baby, Mark. This child is going to grow up knowing that their mother fought for them. That when someone tried to destroy her, she did not let them. This baby will never learn to accept cruelty as love or silence as safety. Her voice rose slightly, and they will never have to wonder if their father loved them, because they will know exactly what kind of man you are. Everyone will know. She turned and walked back toward first class, her shoulders squared, her head high. Behind her, Mark sank back into his seat. His carefully constructed confidence had crumbled completely. Claire was crying now, her mascara running in dark streaks down her cheeks. The cabin was silent except for the soft clicking of phone cameras. When Anna reached the first class section, Diana Parker was waiting with a grin that could light up a stadium. Sugar, Diana said, that was the most satisfying thing I have witnessed in 15 years of doing this job. Anna exhaled shakily. I cannot believe I just did that. Believe it. Diana squeezed her arm. You were magnificent. And do not worry about those two. By tomorrow, everyone with an internet connection will know exactly who they are. Before Anna could respond, commotion erupted from the back of the plane. Voices were raised. Someone was shouting. Anna turned to see two police officers boarding the aircraft, their expressions serious. But they were not walking toward her. They were walking toward Claire. One of the officers spoke clearly, his voice carrying through the cabin. Claire Morgan, you are under arrest for filing a false police report, fabricating legal documents, and fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Claire's scream echoed through the aircraft. No, this is a mistake. Mark, tell them. But Mark was not looking at her. He was staring straight ahead, his face frozen in shock. The officers handcuffed Claire and began leading her down the aisle. As she passed Anna, Claire's expression twisted into something ugly. This is your fault, she hissed. You ruined everything. Anna looked at her calmly. No, you ruined everything. I just stopped pretending it was okay. Claire was dragged off the plane, still screaming protests that no one believed. The second officer approached Mark. Mr. Reynolds, we have some questions for you regarding your involvement in filing false reports and fabricating evidence. Please come with us. Mark stood slowly, his movements mechanical. For the first time since Anna had known him, he looked truly afraid. This is not over, he said quietly as he passed her. Anna shook her head. Yes, it is. You just do not know it yet. She watched her husband walk off the plane in the custody of police officers. She watched the other passengers applaud. She watched Emily rush forward to embrace her. And for the first time in 3 years, Anna felt like she could breathe. The days following the flight became a blur of activity. Anna moved through them like a swimmer, finally breaking the surface after years underwater, gasping for air and light and the simple freedom of existing without constant fear. She did not return to Chicago. Instead, she stayed in Seattle with Emily, who had taken leave from the airline to be with her sister. They rented a small house near the water, a temporary refuge while the legal proceedings unfolded. The media storm arrived faster than anyone expected. Diana Parker released her footage the morning after the incident. Within 12 hours, it had been viewed over 8 million times. By the end of the week, the number had climbed to 47 million. The comments section became a battleground. Thousands of strangers debated the details of Anna's marriage, the validity of Claire's claims, and the broader implications of what had happened on that flight. Most people sided with Anna. A vocal minority insisted she must have provoked the attack somehow. Anna tried not to read the comments. She was not always successful. The legal proceedings moved with surprising speed. Claire's arrest had triggered an investigation into the fabricated restraining order, which quickly revealed Mark's involvement. Text messages between them showed that he had not only known about the fraud, but had actively helped plan it. One message in particular became evidence at his hearing. "Make sure the restraining order is dated before our Denver trip," Mark had written. "We need it as backup in case she figures things out." The message was time-stamped 3 weeks before the flight. Robert Mitchell called with updates every few days. Charges had been filed, bail had been set, court dates had been scheduled. The wheels of justice were turning, slowly but relentlessly. Anna listened to these updates with a detachment that surprised her. She had expected to feel vindicated, triumphant, satisfied. Instead, she felt mostly tired. The adrenaline that had sustained her through the confrontation had faded, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. She spent most of her time resting, following the doctor's orders for managing stress during the third trimester. The baby was healthy, thank God. The test showed no signs of distress from the incident, but Anna had been warned to take things slowly, to prioritize calm, to avoid unnecessary strain. It was harder than it sounded. Emily was a constant presence, bringing meals and fielding phone calls and handling the small logistics of daily life. She managed communication with the lawyers, coordinated with their father's team, and gently discouraged well-meaning friends from visiting before Anna was ready. Anna had never fully appreciated her sister until now. Emily had spent 5 years maintaining connections that Anna had severed, building bridges between their father and the outside world, waiting patiently for the moment when those bridges might be needed. That moment had arrived, and Emily had been ready. Their father came to visit 2 weeks after the incident. Harold Blackwell arrived without fanfare, driving a rental car rather than being chauffeured. He knocked on the door of the rental house and waited with an uncertain expression that Anna had never seen on his face before. She opened the door and looked at him. He had aged in the 5 years since she had seen him last. His hair was grayer, his shoulders slightly less straight, but his eyes were the same sharp blue that had intimidated business rivals and board members for decades. Those eyes were soft now, careful, afraid of saying the wrong thing. Anna stepped aside to let him in. They sat in the small living room, separated by a coffee table that felt like miles. Emily hovered in the kitchen, giving them space while staying close enough to intervene if needed. "I should have come sooner," Harold said finally. "When your mother died, I should have been there for you. Instead, I buried myself in work and let you walk away." Anna was quiet for a moment. "I made choices too. I could have called. I could have tried harder to bridge the gap." Harold shook his head. "You were grieving. You needed a father who would put you first, and I failed at that. Whatever happened with your husband, whatever brought you to this point, that failure is on me." "Dad," Anna's voice cracked slightly, "I do not blame you for Mark. I chose him. I stayed with him. Those were my decisions." "Maybe, but you chose him because I taught you that love meant proving yourself worthy, that you had to earn affection through silence and accommodation." Harold's jaw tightened. "I see now where you learned to accept less than you deserve." Anna had not expected this. She had prepared herself for awkward small talk, for surface-level reconciliation, for the polite distance that had characterized their relationship even before her departure. She had not prepared for her father to actually understand. The baby kicked, a strong movement that made Anna place her hand on her belly. Harold noticed the gesture. His expression shifted into something tender. "May I?" he asked hesitantly. Anna nodded. Her father moved to sit beside her on the couch. He placed his weathered hand next to hers on her stomach, and they waited together in silence. The baby kicked again. Harold's eyes glistened. "Hello there," he whispered. "I am your grandfather. I made mistakes with your mother, but I promise to do better with you." Anna felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She did not try to stop them. They sat like that for a long time, father and daughter, reconnecting over the promise of new life. Later that evening, after dinner and coffee and conversations that began to heal old wounds, Harold brought up the future. "I want to establish a foundation," he said, "in your name, for domestic abuse survivors." Anna blinked. "What?" "The Blackwell Foundation. Resources for women trying to escape dangerous situations, legal aid, housing assistance, job training, everything you needed and did not have access to. Anna considered this. I did have access to those resources. I just did not want to use them. Harold nodded. Because you were too proud to ask for help. Because I raised you to believe that needing help was weakness. He paused. The foundation would not just provide resources. It would help change that narrative. It would tell women that asking for help is strength, not surrender. Anna looked at her father with new eyes. This was not the cold businessman she remembered from her childhood. This was someone who had spent 5 years alone with his regrets, thinking about what he could have done differently. This was someone who wanted to make amends. I will think about it, Anna said carefully, but I appreciate the offer. Harold smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had seen from him in years. Take all the time you need. I am not going anywhere. The trials were scheduled for spring, but justice did not wait for the courtroom. Mark Reynolds lost his job 3 weeks after the incident. The tech company where he worked as vice president of marketing issued a carefully worded statement about separating from employees whose behavior did not align with corporate values. They did not mention the viral video or the pending criminal charges, but everyone knew why he had been terminated. His professional reputation crumbled rapidly. Industry contacts stopped returning calls. Networking events suddenly had no space for him. The carefully cultivated image of a successful executive evaporated, replaced by the face that millions of people had seen defending his mistress while his pregnant wife sat soaking wet in the row ahead. The apartment Mark had rented after Anna froze their joint accounts was small and shabby, nothing like the lifestyle he had been living. He could not afford a decent lawyer. He could not afford much of anything. His mother, Margaret Reynolds, refused to take his calls. She had seen the video. She had watched her son stand by while another woman attacked his pregnant wife. She told mutual relatives that she no longer had a son named Mark. Claire Morgan's fall was equally swift and arguably more complete. Her arrest at the airport made national news. Her mugshot circulated widely online. The perfectly applied makeup smeared from crying. The red dress wrinkled and stained. Comments on Diana Parker's videos mocked her relentlessly. The restraining order fraud carried serious consequences. Combined with the false police report, Claire faced potential prison time. Her lawyer negotiated desperately, eventually securing a plea deal that included 18 months of probation and 200 hours of community service. She lost her job, of course. She was evicted from her apartment when her landlord recognized her from the viral video. She moved back to her hometown in Ohio, where former classmates whispered about her behind their hands at the grocery store. The pregnancy she had claimed turned out to be a lie. Claire had never been pregnant. She had fabricated the story to pressure Mark into leaving Anna faster. The deception collapsed under the weight of medical records that showed no evidence of a baby. Mark found out about the fake pregnancy from a court document. He did not take it well. Their relationship, built on lies and manipulation and shared cruelty, did not survive the pressure of legal consequences. They turned on each other quickly, each trying to shift blame, each providing evidence against the other in exchange for lighter sentences. By the time spring arrived, they were strangers who had once conspired together. Anna watched these developments from a distance, through reports from Robert Mitchell and occasional updates from Emily. She did not celebrate their downfall. She did not feel satisfaction at their suffering. Mostly she felt relief that it was over. The divorce was finalized in April. Anna received full custody of the baby, which was never seriously contested given Mark's legal situation. The financial settlement was generous, though Anna did not need the money. She donated most of it to organizations that help single mothers. The Blackwell Foundation officially launched in May. Anna served on the board alongside her father, though she avoided the spotlight as much as possible. Emily became the public face of the organization, giving interviews and raising awareness with the natural charisma she had always possessed. Diana Parker remained a friend and ally. She continued covering the story as it developed, but she also checked in regularly just to see how Anna was doing. They had dinner together whenever Diana passed through Seattle, which was surprisingly often. You could be famous, Diana told her once, over plates of pasta at a restaurant overlooking the water. Your story resonates with millions of people. They want to see your face, hear your voice. Anna shook her head. I do not want to be famous for the worst experience of my life. Diana nodded slowly. I respect that. But think about this. Every woman who watches that video and sees herself in your story, she needs to know that you survived, that you are okay, that there is life on the other side. Anna considered this for a long time after that dinner. Eventually, she agreed to do one interview, just one, on Diana's podcast, Southern Truth, where the audience was already sympathetic and the questions would be fair. She talked for 2 hours about her marriage, about the warning signs she had ignored, about the moment on the plane when she realized her husband was more concerned with protecting his mistress than defending his pregnant wife. She talked about calling her father after 5 years of silence, about the terror of admitting she needed help, about the overwhelming relief when help actually arrived, and she talked about what she had learned. Silence is not strength, Anna said, her voice steady. I told myself for years that enduring was the same as surviving, that if I just stayed quiet and accommodating, everything would eventually be okay. But it was not okay. It was never going to be okay. Silence did not protect me. It protected him. The interview went viral within hours. Thousands of women reached out to the foundation in the weeks that followed. Their stories echoed Anna's in heartbreaking detail. Husbands who cheated and gaslit, partners who used the legal system as a weapon, family members who refused to believe. Silence that stretched for years because asking for help felt like failure. The foundation helped as many as it could. It was never enough. There were always more stories, more women, more silence that needed to be broken. But it was a start. Hope Eleanor Blackwell was born on a Tuesday morning in June. The delivery was smooth, all things considered. 12 hours of labor, an epidural that actually worked, and a team of doctors who treated Anna with the gentle efficiency of people who were very good at their jobs. Emily was in the room when Hope arrived. So was Harold, though he stayed near the door with tears streaming down his weathered face. The moment the baby was placed on Anna's chest, everything else faded away. The pain of the past year, the trauma of the flight, the endless legal proceedings and media attention. None of it mattered compared to this small, perfect creature with her dark hair and her father's eyes. Well, not her father's eyes. Mark Reynolds would never know this child, would never hold her or rock her to sleep or teach her to ride a bike. He had forfeited those rights the moment he chose Claire Morgan over his family. Hope would grow up knowing the truth eventually. Anna would not hide it from her. But she would also grow up surrounded by love, by aunts and grandparents and family friends who would show her what healthy relationships looked like. She would never learn to accept cruelty as normal. The first few months of motherhood were harder than Anna had expected. Sleep deprivation blurred the days together. Feeding schedules dominated every decision. Simple tasks like showering or eating a full meal became luxuries to be scheduled carefully. But there was joy, too. So much joy. Hope's first smile, her first laugh, the way she grabbed Anna's finger and held on tight as if nothing in the world could make her let go. Anna moved into a new house in the fall, a craftsman-style home with a garden and a view of the mountains. Emily lived nearby, close enough to visit daily, far enough to maintain healthy boundaries. Harold flew in monthly, combining business trips with grandmother duty. They were rebuilding something. Not the family they had been before, fractured by grief and miscommunication, but something new, something stronger. Anna thought often about the woman she had been on that plane, sitting in her seat, water dripping from her hair, unable to speak in her own defense. That woman had been broken in ways she did not fully understand until later. The woman she was becoming was different, quieter in some ways, louder in others, more careful about who she trusted, more willing to fight for what mattered. Diana Parker visited in October, bringing toys for Hope and gossip about their mutual acquaintances. They sat on the porch while the baby slept, drinking wine that Anna had finally been cleared to enjoy. I need to tell you something, Diana said, her expression more serious than usual. Anna tensed slightly. What? Mark tried to reach out to one of my producers. He wanted to do an interview, tell his side of the story. Anna's stomach dropped. What did you say? Diana smiled coldly. I said that if he ever contacts anyone associated with my show again, I will release the unedited footage from the plane, including the part where he explicitly told Claire that he wanted you to miscarry so he would not have to pay child support. Anna had not heard this part before. She felt suddenly cold. He said that? On camera, Diana's voice was flat. I did not include it in the public release because it was too horrible. But I have it, and he knows I have it. They sat in silence for a moment. Why are you telling me this? Anna finally asked. Because you need to know that people like Mark never really go away. They wait, they plan, they look for opportunities. Diana met her eyes. You have to stay vigilant, not paranoid, but aware. Does that make sense? Anna nodded slowly. It makes sense, good. Diana's expression softened. Now show me more pictures of that adorable baby. The evening continued on a lighter note, but Anna filed the warning away carefully. She had learned that lesson on the plane. People who hurt you once will hurt you again if given the chance. She would not give Mark that chance. The foundation continued to grow through the fall and winter. Anna took a more active role, attending meetings and reviewing proposals, though she still avoided public appearances when possible. The work was meaningful in a way that her old nonprofit job had never been. She was not just helping strangers. She was helping women who had been where she was, trapped in silence, waiting for permission to ask for help. Emily thrived in her role as the foundation's spokesperson. She gave interviews with warmth and authenticity, sharing her perspective as the sister who had watched from a distance, unable to intervene until Anna was ready to accept help. The story resonated. Donations poured in. Other organizations reached out to partner. Harold attended every board meeting, offering guidance when asked and staying quiet when not. He had learned something in the years since his wife's death, something about the difference between control and support. He was still learning. They all were. On the anniversary of the flight, Anna found herself unable to sleep. She sat in the nursery, holding Hope in the rocking chair by the window. Outside, snow was falling gently, covering the garden in white. 1 year ago, she had been a different person, married to a man who did not love her, pregnant and terrified and completely alone in a crowded cabin at 30,000 feet. Now she was here, in this house, with this baby, surrounded by family who had proven their loyalty when it mattered most. She thought about the woman who had sat in that seat, waiting for someone to save her. That woman had not understood that she was the someone, that the strength she needed had always been inside her, buried under years of conditioning and fear. It had taken hitting bottom to find it. Hope stirred in her arms, making the soft sounds of a baby halfway between sleep and waking. Anna adjusted her hold and began to hum softly, a lullaby her own mother had sung to her decades ago. The melody filled the quiet room. Outside, the snow continued to fall. 6 months after Hope's first birthday, Anna stood on the porch of her home watching Emily's car disappear down the mountain road. Her sister had just left after a weekend visit filled with laughter and cooking disasters and long conversations about nothing important. The house felt quieter now, but not lonely. There was a difference. Hope was napping in her room, exhausted from the excitement of Aunt Emily's visit. Anna had perhaps an hour of peace before the toddler would wake, demanding attention and snacks and the endless activity that defined life with the 18-month-old. She used the time to sit on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket, watching the afternoon light filter through the trees. It had been almost 2 years since the flight. The legal proceedings had finally concluded. Mark had received 18 months in prison for his role in the fraud and false police report schemes, though he would likely serve less with good behavior. Claire had completed her community service and probation, then moved somewhere no one tracked. Anna did not think about them often anymore. They had become characters in a story about someone she used to be, relevant to her history, but not to her future. The foundation was thriving. They had helped over 3,000 women in the past year alone, providing legal aid and emergency housing and the simple reassurance that asking for help was not weakness. Diana Parker had produced a documentary about domestic abuse that featured Anna's story prominently. Anna had agreed to participate, finally ready to be a face for the cause, rather than hiding behind press releases and foundation statements. The documentary had won awards. More importantly, it had reached people who needed to hear its message. Anna's inbox was filled with letters from women who had watched it and decided to leave dangerous situations. She read every letter. She responded when she could. Harold was healthy for a man in his mid-60s, though he had recently announced plans to step back from day-to-day operations at Blackwell Industries. He wanted to spend more time with his granddaughter, he said. He wanted to make up for the years he had lost with his daughters. Anna was learning to let him. The baby monitor crackled, announcing that Hope was awake. Anna set down her tea and went inside. Her daughter was standing in her crib, gripping the rails with determined hands. At 18 months, Hope was a whirlwind of energy and curiosity, constantly exploring, constantly demanding to know what everything was and why. "Mama," Hope said, her face breaking into a smile that could melt glaciers. Anna lifted her out of the crib and settled her on her hip. "Hey, baby girl, did you have a good nap?" Hope responded with a stream of toddler babble that might have been words or might have been nonsense. Anna nodded along seriously as if her daughter were delivering an important business presentation. They went downstairs together. Anna prepared a snack while Hope played with blocks on the kitchen floor, building towers and knocking them down with gleeful destruction. This was her life now. Quiet moments with her daughter. Work that mattered. Family that showed up. It was not the life she had imagined when she married Mark Reynolds. It was not the life she had planned when she ran away from her father's world at 24. It was better. The doorbell rang. Anna frowned slightly. She was not expecting anyone. Emily had just left. Harold was not due for another week. She lifted Hope onto her hip and went to answer the door. A woman stood on the porch. Younger than Anna, maybe 25, with dark circles under her eyes and a nervous way of holding herself that Anna recognized immediately. "Mrs. Blackwell?" The woman's voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes, I am sorry to bother you at home. I know this is inappropriate." The woman twisted her hands together. "My name is Jennifer Walsh. I saw your documentary. I am trying to leave my husband." Anna studied her for a moment. The careful makeup that did not quite cover a fading bruise on her cheekbone. The long sleeves in warm weather. The way her eyes kept darting to the road, as if someone might appear at any moment. "Come inside," Anna said. She led Jennifer to the living room and settled Hope in her playpen with toys. Then she sat across from the younger woman and waited. Jennifer's story came out in fragments. A marriage that had started well and deteriorated gradually. Isolation from friends and family, financial control, then physical violence, escalating slowly until she barely recognized her own life. "I do not know what to do," Jennifer said, tears sliding down her cheeks. "He took my phone, my car keys, everything. I borrowed a neighbor's car to get here. If he finds out I am gone, he will hurt me." Anna listened without interrupting. She had heard versions of this story hundreds of times through her foundation work. Each one broke her heart in a slightly different way. When Jennifer finished, Anna leaned forward. "Here is what is going to happen," she said calmly. "You are going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow we are going to call the foundation and connect you with legal aid. They will help you file for a protective order and begin divorce proceedings. If you need housing, we have resources for that too." Jennifer stared at her. "Just like that? Just like that? But you do not even know me." Anna smiled slightly. "I do not need to know you. I know what it feels like to be trapped. I know what it feels like to think there is no way out. And I know that asking for help is the hardest and bravest thing you will ever do." Jennifer burst into fresh tears. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Anna handed her a tissue box. "Do not thank me yet. There is a lot of hard work ahead. Leaving is just the first step. But it is a step. Yes." Anna thought about that plane, about the water running down her face, about the moment she finally understood that silence would not save her. Yes, it is. That evening, after Jennifer was settled in the guest room and Hope was asleep in her crib, Anna sat on the porch again. The stars were bright overhead. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. She thought about the woman she had been 2 years ago, the woman who believed that love meant earning acceptance through silence, the woman who thought enduring was the same as surviving, the woman who sat frozen in her seat while water dripped from her hair, unable to speak in her own defense. That woman had not disappeared. She was still part of Anna, still lived in her memories and her cautious approach to trust. But she was not the whole story anymore. Anna had learned something on that flight, something that took years to fully understand. The first step is not being rescued. The first step is deciding you are worth rescuing. Everything else follows from there. She pulled out her phone and typed a text to Emily. "A woman showed up at my door today. She is leaving her husband. I am going to help her." Emily's response came quickly. "Of course you are. That is who you are now." Anna smiled at the screen. The night was quiet. Inside, Hope slept peacefully. In the guest room, Jennifer was safe for the first time in years. Tomorrow would bring challenges. paperwork and phone calls, and the slow, difficult work of rebuilding a life. But tonight there was peace. Anna had walked onto a plane as a woman who had forgotten her own worth. She had walked off as someone who finally remembered, not because her family was powerful, not because karma found her enemies, but because she made a choice. She chose herself, she chose her daughter, and she chose to stop being silent. If you are reading this and you see yourself in her story, know this. Your voice matters, your pain is real, and you deserve to be believed. The hardest step is the first one, but you do not have to take it alone. Someone is always watching. Someone is always ready to help. You just have to ask.